I'm going to say something controversial. I'm going to say something that's never been said before on this YouTube landscape of 40K. Are you ready? I want you to take a brief couple of seconds for what I'm about to say because the whole community is going to rain down upon me. It's about time I came out with it. I think Imperial Knights are really cool. Yeah, no one's getting mad at that. You know, I've been thinking, because I've been perusing, I've been reading a lot more. I've been reading Tales of Heresy, reading. I've been listening to the audiobook, but for me, that's basically reading. And some thoughts have been occurring to me because this is a whole separate video issue. But then I've just been thinking of, wow, it seems back in the Heresy, everything was a lot cooler. Everything was a lot bigger, more grandiose, and overall very chatty. And this got me thinking even more. You can tell because I'm letting you know that I was thinking, which in turn, how do you think I felt when I was narrating to myself? Wow, I'm really thinking right now. And I was thinking this thing that I was thinking, I was like, whoa, where's the hype for Imperial Knights? Where is like everybody saying, oh, we want more stories based off this. We want more, basically Pacific Rim type violence in 40K. It's radio silence. It's not here. It's to be seen somewhere else that's not in the Materium. It's not here. And I'm confused as to why. I really like Imperial Knights. Not saying I'm a huge fan. I'm not saying I can name every knight ever. I probably could because I'm just that smart. No. But there should be a lot more hype just considering them as a faction. Overall, their lore too is pretty interesting, and I don't think anyone really gets involved in that, but they should, because basically just imagine Game of Thrones level political espionage and intrigue, and then add in science, sci-fi, fantasy-esque elements into that, and you're like, oh, this is actually really cool. Why don't more authors pick up on this shit? I don't know. Really good question, because I feel like most of the books that are probably focused on knights probably don't delve super duper deep into it, or people just don't really enjoy it that much, it makes sense, but it shouldn't make sense, because I found the best way I got into knights, or at least I really started appreciating the lore of Imperial Knights, was by reading Kingmaker, which is supposed to be really a book about assassins infiltrating a knight world. And, you would think the majority of it would be, most likely focused on the assassins, the Varnus Temple, the Vindicare, the ones that do the polymorphing one. I don't remember what they're called off the top of my head. But you get what I'm saying. All these temples, all the inner workings of how the politics work when it comes to the Assassinorum and the various temples, and how they coexist and commingle, and how they dictate how a mission goes down, and you get to see each temple's way of dealing with that strategy. All of this seems really cool. I thought it was cool. I was like, I really never gave a huge shit about assassins in 40K, but at least I was gaining, more and more. I'm like, ooh, this is really cool. I'm really appreciating this. This is awesome to see how this works. But then once you get past the first chapter, when they actually infiltrate the world, this assassin book gets it's so much better, because it's 99% now focused on the knights, the politics, how the line of succession works, how everything's dictated, how enemy houses exist even though they all serve the Imperium, as is dictated by the treaty signed by the Emperor. It's interesting stuff. And you get to see all these different knights and the variations, and how the bigger ones work, how the smaller ones work, and how these units play to their strengths, and how you might not want to think that a little itty bitty like mecha one is going to stand against a towering giant, plasma rifle explosion thingamajig knight. You're not going to know, but you find out about all these different inner workings of the Imperial Knights, and how they function, how they connect with their rider vessel, whatever you're gonna call them. I don't know the official term because it's been a hot minute since I've read it. But the fact that it stuck with me it means that, obviously I liked it a lot, and I think you guys would like it if I'm even telling you about it, because you get to see the knights basically have what would actually be considered a machine spirit to me, because that term gets thrown around by literally anybody and everybody. Like, imagine this is like a plasma rifle. Oh, it's not working. Let me bless the machine spirit real quick. You need to work. And then boom, maybe it's working again. The machine spirit could be anything. But in this, you get to literally see it. You get to see all the past wielders of the knight in question, and they communicate with each other and, the current, occupier of the night. And they quiz you. They want to make sure you are who they say that they want to make sure you are who you say you are. And it just leads into, again, more lore and more in depth. And it's insane to me that an assassin book covers this way more than I think maybe some other books probably do. Because the hype there is exponential and it's untapped. And I've said this about a lot of factions, because I do, a lot of factions do have some serious, even the main ones that everyone's tired of, i.e., Space Marines, Loyalists. Maybe that's just because I'm a huge Chaos enjoyer. But even then, Chaos, you're only seeing Space Marines and everyone else is getting jobbed out. But it's a well of unlimited potential there. You can write so many stories, and they could be thrown in anywhere. They can throw, Knights versus Chaos, Knights versus Nids, Knights versus Orcs, any sort of warfare you can imagine, whether that's from, however they're involved with whatever faction, you can utilize them, and this goes for any faction, really. You can utilize them in a way that's entertaining, but Knights specifically, just because they had that badass factor of huge explosions, huge machines, everything's insane, nothing's normal, everybody's gonna die, but it's super cool and super just entertaining for everybody to read, no matter what you enjoy. And it gets lost because, again, it's not covered well, or it's covered way better in a book that isn't really even, shouldn't be focusing on that to that degree. An assassin book should, and this might be a hot take, mostly focus on the assassins and not the inner workings of a night world. Even though I sure as shit appreciate it and I think it's super cool, it most likely shouldn't be that way. I don't know if that's a hot take, but I'm gonna be real here. Books, if it's an orc book, it should probably 90% focus on orcs and not 10% the Imperial Guard, even though maybe I would like to see their POV. But again, all I'm trying to say here is Imperial Knights, really, really chatty. No one's giving them the love that they deserve. And this goes to a lot of different factions too that honestly just don't get brought up a lot too, like Sisters of Silence. I think Custodies kind of get a good amount of attention, but who am I thinking of besides Sisters of Silence? Anywho, that actually speaks to me right now. Crew, or, the Tau, or the Mechanicum, or Eldar. God forbid the Eldar get a win, even though I'm not mad seeing them lose all the time, because personally I'm not a big elf guy. But you get what I'm saying, though. These books should actually focus on the things that they're writing about, and they should elevate everybody involved and not punch down and make them even worse. And in Kingmaker, even though the Knights are, the main focus, even though they really shouldn't have been as much, I still appreciate it. It was still really good. And it's just an insight into what can be done when it's a purely Knight-focused novel or book or whatever medium they're in, whether it's a video game, a book, or a TV show, animated show on, Warhammer Plus. There's a lot of untapped potential and a lot of untapped narratives that can be used. And I think GW, if you're listening to me, a small man in his basement, which might be the majority of Warhammer fans, I'm just kidding, I'm just joking, I'm joking. Maybe take my advice, this guy who knows nothing about anything, and tap this untapped market right now of cool Pacific Rim-esque violence. That's all I'm saying. I don't know. What do you guys think? Is there a noticeable decreased amount of hype for Imperial Knights, or are they just properly, rated where they are, shoved away in a locker until someone's bored and just remembers they exist? I don't know. Anyway, thank you for watching, guys, for this little rant, and I will see you all in a little bit.